All right, let's get started. This is MMA Boss Breakdown. Thank you for joining me once again. If you have not already, please subscribe to my channel and like this video. All right, let's get started. So this is UFC 228, Tyron Woodley versus Darren Till. There's two title fights on this fight card. The second being Nico Montano versus Valentina Shevchenko. Overall, the card top to bottom is mediocre. There's some interesting matchups throughout the prelims. Obviously, we won't be getting to those because on this channel we only break down the main card. Let's get right into it. The first matchup on the main card is Abdul Al-Hassan versus Nico Price. This is a welterweight fight. Some of you may not be familiar with these two fighters opening up the main card. I think the reason that they're on the opener for the pay-per-view is because this is probably going to be an action fight. It should deliver. It should be a fun fight. Nico Price, he's coming off of a recent knockout, one of the coolest knockouts this year so far. Just a couple months ago, he was fighting Randy Brown and he had a knockout from his back. He landed hammer fists from his back and knocked out Randy Brown. And it was a really cool finish. If you haven't seen it already, check that out. Nico Price is, primarily a grappler. He's a pretty decent one. I think he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He definitely is a willing striker, which is probably going to get him in some trouble here in this fight. He doesn't have the greatest takedowns. He's kind of got some of that, jiu-jitsu takedown game, which isn't the greatest. He doesn't have, that great of wrestling to incorporate in his jiu-jitsu. But once he's on top on the ground, he's good. He passes pretty well. He's got good top control. He looks for submissions actively. He's pretty heavy with his base. Hard to sweep. Guys can get up. I don't think that his grappling is going to be able to be in much of effect for this fight. Abdul Al-Hassan is a judo black belt. He doesn't use much of his judo other than for takedown defense. He's got very strong hips. He's hard to take down. If he does get taken down, he's very good at getting back up to his feet. He's powerful. His legs are strong. He's good at either getting butterfly and then pushing off, creating space, and then standing back up, or looking for his own sweeps to get back up to his feet. So I don't know if, even if it does somehow hit the mat for a brief moment, I don't think that it's going to be there very long. Nico Price is kind of more of a one-punch striker for the most part. He'll be on the outside, kind of be patient, works at a slower pace on the feet until he finds the right opening to work for a takedown, work his grappling. His defense is not that great. Abdul Al-Hassan is a knockout artist. I think all of his wins are by knockout. He doesn't have much as far as punch selection. He's mostly three punches. He comes in with a left jab, trying to set up that overhand right, and then occasionally will mix in an uppercut depending on how the opponent is reacting. If they're closing the distance in short, Al-Hassan will throw the uppercut. He's powerful with all his strikes. Every single shot he throws is total 100% power. He's a pressure fighter. He likes to move forward, back you up against the cage, look for that overhand, and close the show. Nico Price, his defensive liabilities is going to get him probably knocked out here, and that's what I pick for this fight is Abdul Al-Hassan by knockout, probably the first round. I would like to see a little bit of groundwork, or this go into a second or third round just to see how Al Hassan does a little bit later. Nico Price can be knocked out. That's why I think this is definitely going to lean that way. So there we are. Let's move on to the next one. We have Jessica Andrade versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz. This should be a good fight. Some of the fights on this card probably have a good chance of being boring. This one should be exciting, just like the opener. What it comes down to mostly in this fight is going to be horsepower. Jessica Andrade is just so strong, so powerful, so tough for this division that I don't think whatever Karolina brings to the fight is ultimately going to matter. Plus, Karolina's game is going to kind of play into Andrade's game. Karolina, her main strengths are the clinch. We saw that in her fight with her last fight. I'm just blanking. Sorry. Anyway, her main strengths are in the clinch. She works well from the outside. She has some, defensive liabilities. She has a tendency to walk into the pocket, similar to like a lot of Muay Thai fighters do. She'll be there to get hit a little bit by Andrade, and when they close and Karolina locks up that clinch, she's good at sneaking in the elbows over the top and sneaking in the knees, but that clinch is such a powerful place for Andrade that she's just going to grab onto her and take her down. And we saw that Claudia Gadelha in the fight against Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Karolina can be taken down and just powered down by a strong wrestler. And Andrade, her wrestling is very good. She's very powerful. She's the strongest person in this division. I think that the game plan probably is going to be, march forward like Andrade normally does. She's going to move forward, pressure her against the cage. Karolina will probably give in to allow the clinch to work her game, and she's just going to get put down, beat up on the ground. It would be great to see Andrade work for submissions and add a new wrinkle into her game that would make other women in the division think about something else when she's fighting. But I think she really gets pleasure out of just beating girls up on the ground and against the cage. That's probably what we're going to see, is just continuous clinching, even when Karolina is not having success there, and just getting beat up, taken down, maybe getting back to her feet briefly, beat up against the cage, and rinse and repeat until the fight is over. So Jessica Andrade probably by unanimous decision, but it'll probably be, a beating, and hopefully we see Karolina survive. I like her. Hopefully she'll put up a good fight and give us some surprising offense in that clinch and give Andrade something to think about. All right. Next fight, we got Zabit Magomedsharipov versus Brandon Davis. Brandon Davis is filling in short notice for Yair Rodriguez, which is quite sad because that Yair fight was one that I was very, very looking forward to. Anyway, we got Brandon Davis filling in. I'm thankful, Brandon Davis, that you filled in here so we can see Zabit's style, because that's exactly what he's going to do. I mean, this is, mostly this fight got put together. Brandon filled in just so that Zabit could stay on the card. He's definitely somebody who's an up-and-comer. If you guys have been watching him, he's an elite fighter that hasn't quite proven to be the elite yet, but he's well on his way, and we're going to see him totally style. His kicking game is superb. He's great at mixing up his kicks to the body, not just normal body kicks, but he's got great teeps. He could throw to the head, to the legs. I mean, he's got the spinning back kicks, spinning roundhouse kicks. He's got everything. His punches are very fast, crisp. He likes to throw them straight. He mixes in his combinations well. And then when you think that you've gotten all you can handle, and guys will try to, clinch or wrestle with Zabit, then Zabit just flips the script and shows that he's got a great grappling game. In fact, his clinch and his grappling game might be better than his striking. He does stand kind of tall, but he's so tall for the division and that it's hard for people to reach his head. He doesn't have the best head movement, but his offense is so quick and his output is so high that guys have a hard time getting anything going against him. It's kind of like you just walking into a wood chipper. And Brandon Davis, he's a Muay Thai style fighter, and he has a tendency to really just stand there in front of his opponents and, throw his leg kicks, work a couple punches, wait for the other person to throw so he can then counter. And that slower pace against the beat is going to be terrible. I mean, he's going to have little to no answer against Zabit. Zabit's not like a real powerful puncher, but I could see the volume totally overwhelming Davis and him getting a finish. I mean, maybe he hurts him, takes him to the ground, subs him. I mean, Zabit is creative. I wouldn't be surprised to see a finish from him in any sort of fashion. So it should be complete domination. Looking forward to that one. Let's move on to the co-main event. We have Nico Montano versus Valentina Shevchenko. And the matchup here is quite ridiculous. Nico Montano is the champion and she's defending, and I believe she is the largest underdog champion in UFC history, and for good reason, because she doesn't have a whole lot of experience. Valentina Shevchenko has a ton of experience. She was a Muay Thai champion for years before she got into MMA. She challenged for the bantamweight championship before dropping down to this weight class, and it's a total mismatch. It's probably going to look like a pro versus an amateur. I would like to be nice and say Nico Montano has some stuff to bring that might make this match interesting, but unfortunately, there's nothing really. The way that she strikes and throws her punches, it's almost like she's flailing sometimes. She gets really off balance when she's striking. She has a tendency also, while she's moving and striking, to kind of like lean down, and she's definitely susceptible to a head kick. And Valentina, I think, is someone who could really set that up if she wants to. Her best attribute is probably, like, her best skill is probably her grappling, and even that is going to be nothing when it comes to Shevchenko. I mean, Shevchenko is primarily a striker. Like I said, her background is Muay Thai, but she's no slouch on the ground. Her ground game is actually very good. She's got very dominant top control and some nasty ground and pound we saw from her first flyweight fight. I think it would, I mean, honestly, I would say I think it's a mistake for Montano to try to, go for the grappling, but maybe that's her best bet to have any sort of chance in this fight. But even then, it's really, it's just a mistake getting into this fight and being champion. This really is Shevchenko's belt. Shevchenko is primarily a counter fighter. We've seen her in some fights that weren't all that exciting. So I'm not necessarily convinced that Shevchenko is going to come out and be throwing a million punches, because that's not typically her style. Although in her last fight, she did come out and throw some quick combinations, and she looked faster than she's ever looked. Although she's always been quick, even at bantamweight, she looks even faster at flyweight. So maybe being down in this weight class and fighting women who are actually her size makes her more comfortable with, letting her punches go and having a little bit higher output, where she's not worried about somebody, grabbing onto her who's bigger than her. She's tight with her punches. Her combinations are very good. She's very sharp on the counter. Montano she likes to pressure. She's going to move forward with her face, come right into the pocket, and be open for anything that Shevchenko is going to want to do. And she's just going to throw herself into getting finished. I mean, if this fight somehow goes all 5 rounds, it'll probably be worse for Montano. It's probably better if she just gets finished quickly and gets out of there, and then moves on, tries to get better, and make her way back towards the title. So it's going to be Valentina Shevchenko. I'm going to say by TKO, probably in the 2nd round. I think Montano's got enough heart, and she is tough. I think that maybe she can get beat up for a round and go to the 2nd and then get finished. So next fight, we got Tyron Woodley, the main event, versus Darren Till. And I think there's a good chance that this fight's going to be really boring. And I know that there's a lot of people who are saying that, and it's true. I mean, Tyron Woodley puts on a number of boring fights, and Darren Till recently has put on, a boring fight against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And I think it'll be better than that fight, but Woodley has such a way of sucking people into his game in a way that's kind of brilliant to some degree, because it works for him, but it's just so unpleasant to view in most cases. Woodley really likes to back himself up against that fence. It's so bizarre. He's like the only fighter I can think of that willingly puts himself against the fence. I think it's a way for him to feel comfortable with conserving his energy and going at a slow pace. It's almost like a safety blanket. Like he knows that he can just back into it in case anyone's trying to take him down. And it gives the opponent a false sense that they have the advantage with him against the fence. And Woodley just sits there waiting for that right-hand counter, which he's still super fast and explosive. He's always powerful. Even in the late rounds when he's tired, we saw that against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, that even late after he's wrestled and got himself a little bit worn out, he can still knock you down, still try to finish the fight. He's always going to be dangerous no matter what. But him sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for that one punch, it's super boring. I don't think it's going to work out for him in this fight. Darren Till is a tall welterweight, and he likes to pressure. He doesn't work at a high pace. His pace is a little slower too, and his pressure isn't. It's like a subtle pressure. He likes to move forward and throw punches and back people against the cage, but he doesn't do it with like a lot of aggression or but he likes to back people up. So Woodley is going to have the fight where he wants it, but he's also going to be giving Till the fight that Till wants. And if we've seen in the past, in that Rory McDonald versus Tyron Woodley fight, I know this was years ago, but the blueprint is laid out on how to beat Woodley. And that blueprint is when Woodley's back against the cage, you give him too much to think about to where that counter isn't really going to be there. You jab him, you mix your punches really well with kicks to the body, because Tyron has a guard that leaves his body open, and the kicks to the body will be there, and they need to be there to zap his energy, but also to draw that guard down a little bit, so then you can open up with the jab. And so it's like that constant play of jab to the face, punch, jab to the body, kick to the body, and then you're just overloading him while he's trying to think where the opening is for his own counter. He also can bite on feints a lot once you get that going. Rory McDonald really, really had him just overloaded, and he was getting worked along that fence and had no answers. Do I think Darren Till can do what Rory McDonald did? No, definitely not to the same extent. He's nowhere near the same caliber of fighter as Rory McDonald. But could he extract a version of that game and use it to work for him in this fight? I think he can, and I think he's going to. Darren Till really looks to throw that left hand, that left straight. It's a laser punch. It's got some power. It's definitely not as powerful as some people want to make it seem like it is. He doesn't have the power like Conor McGregor has, with that left hand. It's just not there in the same way. He's got an okay jab that he throws out there, but it's mostly out there to just set up his left. Tyron's kind of similar with his own jab. His jab's really mostly just there to set up his right hand. So, he kicks to the legs decently. We don't see a whole lot of body kicks from him, although I'd like to see him mix in some knees and kicks to the body against Tyron. I'd like to see him, force some clinch, and some close work to cause Tyron Woodley to want to wrestle. And some people think that the key to Woodley winning is to wrestle in this fight. And I would say yes, if it wasn't exactly Tyron Woodley, because Tyron Woodley doesn't have the greatest gas tank, especially in a 5-round fight. He knows, and he doesn't even have the own confidence in his gas tank to wrestle for 5 rounds, because if that was the case, why wouldn't he have wrestled Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in each round of the 2 fights that he had against him? Because every time that he decided to use his wrestling, it was extremely effective, but he didn't do so. Why? Because he doesn't have the energy for it. He's trying to pace himself over 5 rounds in case he has to go all 5 rounds. He's a very intelligent fighter. He's very aware of himself and what he's capable of, and that's why we don't see a wrestle-heavy game plan, even though he is a phenomenal wrestler. So if Darren Till can turn up the volume a little bit more than what he's used to and get Woodley to clinch with him and wrestle and grapple, even if it doesn't go to the ground, if Till can just put his weight on him, and even if Till gets down on the ground, just those exchanges, especially early on, are going to wear Tyron Woodley out, and it's going to leave the openings for Till to turn it up later in the fight. Now, I'm not so sure of Darren's gas tank in a fight where he's going at a higher pace than is normal, and that involves a little bit of grappling, with his weight cut and so on. We saw him go 5 rounds with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, but that was more of a staring contest. I mean, neither guy hardly even broke a sweat in that fight, so it wasn't a real good measurement as to Darren Till's gas tank in a 5-round fight. This one's going to be a little bit slower paced because of Woodley, so I think that it's not going to be a problem. Ultimately, it's probably going to be Darren Till. That's the way I'm leaning. Close fight, and him just running away with it, just barely probably towards the end on the scorecards, you know, as Woodley gets kind of tired, he starts to take over. He starts to, you know, he works the kicks and the punches up against the fence, and Woodley has nothing else left to give. That he'll wait and wait and wait and wait till literally the last second, hoping and thinking that he's going to land that counter right hand and knock Darren Till out. But I mean, Darren Till's tough. He's never been knocked out. You know, we've never even seen Darren Till, you know, badly hurt by punches. I mean, Woodley can probably knock out almost anyone with the right setup, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm picking Darren Till by unanimous decision. It'll probably, even though I say unanimous, it'll probably still be a close fight, just because Woodley causes everyone to fight the kind of fight that he wants to. So, you know, it's probably going to be another snoozer. I hope not, for the fans' sake, but we'll see. There it is. That's the whole main card breakdown for UFC 228. Sorry for the brain fart earlier in the video. I totally blanked out. I did this video a little bit later than I wanted to, which seems to be the story for a lot of my videos, so I apologize. I'm always trying to get better. I would appreciate any of the comments and feedback that you guys have. Again, please like the video and subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next one. All right, take care.